Пане президенте, дорогий Володимире.
Mr. President, dear Volodymyr, ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to welcome President Zelensky back to Paris for such a rich round, which began last night with a bilateral meeting in an expanded format and continued today with another meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, which I led together with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and at the end of which we once again exchanged achievements with President Donald Trump.
З думками з президентом Дональдом Трампом.
The purpose of this whole round was clear, first of all, as I said in the White House on August 18th, to show that the peace camp is located in Washington, Kyiv and in all European capitals. And there are 35 of us at the table today who are in this coalition of willing. These are all those who have reacted to Russia's war of aggression and everyone who stands for a lasting and sustainable peace. And on the other hand, this is Russia, which independently chose war in 2022, as it did in 2008 against Georgia, and in 2014 against Crimea and Donbas, and only today Russia decides to continue the war. And Russia, for its part, did not choose war. It accepted President Trump's proposal for an unconditional ceasefire in Riyadh on March 11th. Since then, Russia has multiplied its false whims, false openness of negotiations, seeking to buy time and clinging to revisionist imperialist goals. And it is clinging to this madness of permanent war, intensifying its attacks on Ukrainian civilians, as recent days and weeks have shown, going for great unacceptable losses, continuing to deploy its troops with auxiliary countries from other countries, in order to gain only a few extra square kilometers at the cost of countless losses. Russia has lost more than 1 million soldiers in this effort to gain less than 1% of Ukraine's territory since November 2022. The goal of our round was to put the negotiating factors in the right order. The problem is not in Ukraine, but in Moscow and its war of aggression. Requiring, as a precondition for any peace negotiations, that Ukraine withdraw Ukrainian forces from territory roughly equivalent to those that cost Russia 250,000 lives and plus 1 million soldiers withdrawn from the order of battle shows that Ukraine needs guarantees. And these guarantees should accompany either a ceasefire or peace agreements. As I reminded in Washington in mid-August, to all representatives of the Coalition of the Willing, we have come a long way. Our chiefs of general staff have worked closely in recent weeks. And today I can say that we are ready.
Тісно працювали останні тижні, і сьогодні я можу сказати, ми готові. Ця коаліція
This coalition of the willing, which was born on February 17th here in Paris, and we've come a long way since the meeting on February 26th that laid the groundwork for this initial plan, and today we have on the table a political proposal, a military proposal, and a proposal coming from 35 leaders, members of the coalition, to provide security guarantees to Ukraine. Our approach to guarantees is as follows. Firstly, there are no restrictions on the format of the Ukrainian army, no restrictions on the size of forces or capabilities. We also want to give Ukraine the opportunity to rebuild the Ukrainian army so that it can strategically deter any potential aggression. And that is why we collected contributions from all countries. The second element is security guaranteeing forces.
Сьогодні 26 країн формально ангажувалися.
Today, 26 countries have formally engaged, other countries have expressed interest, but 26 have formally committed to either send contingent forces to Ukraine, or contribute certain funds to support this coalition, to ensure security at sea or in the sky.
Внести певні засоби для підтримки цієї коаліції, для забезпечення безпеки на морі або в небі.
The goal of this guarantor force is not to wage war against Russia, but to guarantee peace and send a strategic signal to prevent the resumption of fighting. We are now determining where it will be positioned, but in order to deter any new aggression and to show our commitment to long-term security in Ukraine. We worked, all the countries of the coalition, and determined all the contributions. Next, we had a phone conversation with the President of the United States. The conclusions are as follows. In the coming weeks, we will determine America's clear contribution to this coalition. The Americans have been involved in all stages of this process, and I am very grateful to both the U.S. military authorities and the civilian administration. We will finalize America's contribution in the coming weeks. Everything was clarified. Contributions of European countries, contributions of countries of the Asia-Pacific region, Canada. We have identified primary obligations and secondary obligations in order to end the war. All this was agreed today with President Trump. Then there will be contacts between the Americans and Russians. We are all sending a clear signal that now all signals must turn into reality. What was agreed 2 weeks ago, there should be a meeting at the level of two presidents, then a trilateral meeting and a quadrilateral meeting. If Russia continues to refuse to negotiate concrete peace, then from March, as it delays this, we will agree to additional sanctions with America and give a clear answer to this refusal of Russia. It was in this context that this was voiced in our conversation with President Trump. We have always been on the side of international law. We stood for a just peace. And there can be no compensation for aggression, for violation of international law. This is a prelude to other wars. It is about the security of Ukraine, but also about the security of all of us. And I want to remind you that all the heads of state present here, but also all those who participated in the video format, the President of the European Commission, the Secretary General of NATO. I wanted to remind you that the security guarantees that we agreed on at this summit and translated into the political plane, all this clearly correlates with NATO's planning. All NATO plans that have been adopted, they continue. This is an additional area. We thank all participants, and we also thank America's continued efforts to advance these peace negotiations. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Dear Emmanuel, dear friend, dear Mr. President, everyone present. First of all, I thank you for such a high-level organization, meetings, for yesterday's meeting and many hours of meeting of our teams to support Ukraine, our steps, security guarantees, protection of the sky, our future air fleet. We talked about a lot of things yesterday and agreed on a lot. Thank you for today's organization, for your attention, for such a special time and for very special negotiations. Today there was a meeting of the countries participating in the coalition of those who wished, all free Europe, Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. I want to congratulate you. This is the largest meeting of all the countries in terms of the number of countries. I congratulate you for the organization. Once again, I am very grateful. Thank you. I also want to join in Emmanuel's words. Thank all the leaders who were with us today in Paris, live, as they say. And this is Ursula, the President of the European Commission. Antonio, the President of the European Council. Alex, the President of Finland. Meta, the Prime Minister of Denmark. Donald, the Prime Minister of Poland. Dick, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. Bart, the Prime Minister of Belgium, and Steve Witkoff, the Special Envoy of President Trump. Many leaders, many representatives of countries were online. We thank everyone for their activity, ideas and willingness. This is the most important thing, the readiness to support us on the path to peace and with specifics. We spoke with President Trump the day before we had a meeting in Copenhagen in our format of Ukraine, the Nordic and Baltic states. It is also an important format. The key topic for everyone is the same, to end the war as soon as possible through strong steps, strong decisions and guarantee security for Ukraine. In fact, all our meetings are built on two elements. Our security now, that is, support for defense, support for diplomacy and security guarantees in the long term. What exactly should work and when? Key themes. First, everyone agrees that strength for Ukraine is strength for peace, and that is why we are actively working to ensure our strength, our resilience, to ensure right now. Everyone sees that Russia rejects every peace initiative and there is no agreement on peace from Putin yet. A very specific impression is also after the meeting in China, which Putin will obviously try to use as a kind of permission to continue the war. And in general, with his behavior, Putin is trying to show that pressure does not seem to affect him. In fact, the situation, we believe, is fundamentally different. The pressure works. The situation is becoming more complicated for the Russian economy and for those who trade with Russia. We will continue this line. Today we talked about new sanctions, also about secondary ones, about special tariffs in trade that can help. Secondly, the coalition of willing is working very actively. Military, politicians, advisors. There are significant developments and our teams have worked for many days and weeks. In fact, we understand what the basis for real security guarantees should be. There is a basic framework. We understand that security guarantees are not about the future, it is about the situation now too. A strong Ukrainian army is and will be a central element of security guarantees. Accordingly, these are the capabilities of our army. These are weapons, financing, training, and weapons production. We provide all this and it should be in a year, it should be in 5 years, in 10 years, both in war conditions now and to guarantee security later, in peacetime. We have the basis for a plan for forces, for specific steps. We determine which countries will participate in this or that security component. Who will be on the ground, who can help in the sky, who in the maritime space, who in cyberspace, who does not have their own forces but can join financially. It is also specific about production. We state that European production lines are not working enough yet, but it is all necessary and it is clear how to increase it. The volumes should be larger, the speed should be higher. We also have significant production facilities in Ukraine today, which are not used due to shortages and lack of funds. This is really serious. Almost 60% of all weapons that we use today are produced in Ukraine, in our country. Ukrainians are successful in this. I believe we are of high quality, and we must help every European country to be successful in one or another production. Technological leadership for Europe is critical. This is its own healthy industry and enough jobs, enough investments, enough interaction of leadership in global competition. Europe must be a leader, and we, in particular, are promoting this when we build new security guarantees for Ukraine. We prepare documents on guarantees and determine investments in security from each country. As Emmanuel said, 26 countries have agreed to provide Ukraine with security guarantees, and I think that today, in a long time, this is such a serious, the first such very serious specifics. I congratulate us all on this and congratulate you and Kia as the chairmen of the coalition of willing. Third, it is important that America is with us. We work in many formats, from programs such as Pearl, which allow to buy American weapons, to America's readiness to participate in security guarantees in the long term. Today we spoke with President Trump. We thank for support. A long conversation, detailed, about how to push the situation towards peace. We discussed different options. The most important thing is pressure to force the end of the war with strong measures, including economic ones. The key to peace is to deprive the Russian war machine of money, to deprive it of resources. We also raised the issue of maximum protection of the Ukrainian sky. This is saving lives. And as long as there is no peace, our people should not depend on constant Russian attacks, Russian missiles, Iranian drones. They should not take the lives of Ukrainians. This is important and possible. We are counting on this program. We agreed on further contacts. Thank you, Emmanuel. Glory to Ukraine.
Four questions.
I am a journalist of the Inter TV channel, United News Marathon, Ukraine. Questions for both of you, please. What security format has Europe jointly chosen? In which document should they be fixed? Will it be signed by each of the countries, or should it be ratified by parliaments so that the guarantees are legally enshrined, irreversible and work for many years to come? I also ask you to clarify about the support from European partners at this moment, when Putin has intensified massive attacks against Ukraine and at a time when preparations for winter are underway, and we understand that he can also use this factor. As for the support of air defense, are there any new solutions, or can we hope for enhanced assistance in this matter? Thanks.
Thank you for asking. 35 countries participate. This is the broadest representation of all countries in the coalition of the willing. 26 countries support security guarantors for Ukraine, in different formats. We will not talk about the structure of the complete guarantor of security today, but the main elements are clear. A strong Ukrainian army, domestic production, European production, which I mentioned, needs to be expanded. It is also very important for strengthening the Ukrainian army, as well as the possibility and various programs for the purchase of scarce weapons, primarily air defense, anti-ballistic missiles from the United States of America. These are key elements in strengthening our army. I just did not repeat some of the things that President Macron said. It is also clear that this is not a reduction or limitation of the Ukrainian army. As for deterrence, or, let's say, real protection from partners, there is a lot of elemental infrastructure. First of all, it is presence. We agreed that there will be a presence. I am not ready to say the number yet, although, to be honest, we are already dividing among ourselves. We understand approximately the number of those who have already agreed. And presence, as I said, it is different. It is both in the sky, on the sea, and on the ground. And we are also discussing issues that, in my opinion, we will continue to discuss. This is the US backstop. We count. We are very grateful that America supports and is part of the security guarantees for Ukraine. And in what format, in more detail, I am not yet ready to tell you. Although the elements are already clear to us. This is an important conclusion from our meeting, in my opinion. Many things become clear. This, let's say, is supportive. With reality, not only morally, but really supports that Ukrainians, our military, our population, Ukraine will have real security guarantees. We are talking about the political format today. I also said that in addition to military security guarantees, there is also a political format. But more on that later. As for air defense, in fact, at the end of my speech, I said, we are considering one format. We shared it with him today. We talked about it in detail with Emmanuel yesterday. We talked about this format for the first time. Today we shared it with partners. After that we shared it with President Trump. If we get a positive signal from the United States, because technically a lot depends on them in this new format of sky protection. If we receive a positive signal from them, we will be happy to share this information. Thanks.
Thank you very much. As for your second question, I'll start with it. You are right, there is an intensification of Russian attacks and which requires strengthening our support, helping the Ukrainian resistance. We talked yesterday about bilateral support, acceleration, training, other financial solutions to support Ukraine. I would like to insist on the issue of accelerating the production, in particular, of drones in Ukraine. There was an absolutely transformation of Ukraine's ability to produce these UAVs. And today we transfer a lot of production capacities. And I confirm the President's words. About 60% of weapons are produced in Ukraine with support and cooperation. But this is an extraordinary figure and we want to intensify this. This is the first element. Next, regarding the formalization of security guarantees. First of all, I want to remind you where we're coming from. In February 2024, we completed the summit in this hall. I wanted to clarify this strategic uncertainty of the conflict. There were two of us who said that maybe someday we would be ready to send troops. These were Lithuania and France. Only two countries. Let me remind you that the atmosphere was quite negative. The moment when I am talking to you now, and the President reminded this, there are already about 20 countries that have confirmed the desire to send their military forces and have the support of the protection of Ukraine's air, sea, and to be part of these security guarantee forces. These are solutions that have crystallized in recent months. The formalization will take place in the coming weeks, but it is already formalized in terms of integrity. This is no longer just a declaration. When President Zelensky says that there are 26 countries, we are talking about 35 coalition countries, and 26 have already formalized their contribution very clearly. And the document that we have today is a military planning document, where 26 heads of the general staffs, defense ministers confirmed what they were ready to do depending on their abilities. Today we will continue this work, finalize it with President Trump, to see what support can be given by the American side, then monitoring, security. And then there will be a question of formalizing political texts, that is, preparing a sustainable peace and getting a multilateral agreement and bilateral support agreements. A few months ago, we signed bilateral agreements within the framework of NATO summits. So, there was already engagement, solidarity and support. The strength of what we are doing today, the fact that we are going much further, is military planning, which already gives details of our contributions to support the Ukrainian army and the guarantee forces. That is, these are already operational forces, and we will work on the legal and political formalization of these documents in order to achieve sustainable peace.
Good afternoon. Mr. President, you mentioned these guarantee forces on the ground, in the sky, in the sea. Why can't you say, for example, how many people, how many men and women will be, what mission? Very specifically, we have heard statements from other countries, and many were waiting for American support before engaging their side. And as I understand it, nothing has changed in relation to the statement of August 18. What commitments did President Trump take a few minutes ago? And today, Mr. President Zelensky, August 1st has already passed. Do you think that a meeting between you and Putin is still possible? And if so, where exactly?
Thank you very much for your question. First of all, the United States have been very clear, and they have been very clear since the beginning of our first meeting in Washington, and that has been confirmed today, and that is why they have been involved in the work of recent weeks to support them. And the desire to be part of these security guarantees. There is no doubt about it. And it was said publicly, by President Trump, it was confirmed by the Secretary of State during the ad hoc meetings and by all the actors. Next is the issue of planning, which will be determined with the United States within the framework of what I have told you. The second element of the answer that I wanted to provide, I will not describe the details to you here. We don't have any desire to reveal everything. And we did not even pass on all the information between us. Our defense ministers, our chiefs of staff, they work within a very secret framework. This is our line of defense. And we will not reveal the details of our organization to Russia. Ask Mr. Putin how many troops he is gathering on the border with Ukraine, whom he is mobilizing. I will not give you details. Instead, our chiefs of general staffs have this information, exchanged it and are engaged in planning. That is, it is not just a statement of principles. This is a really serious engagement with all means. And 26 countries have already provided details of their participation. Here's what I can tell you.
I will partially finish the answer to the first question. You asked about parliaments. Yes, all partners understand that we do not want and do not accept a repetition of the Budapest Memorandum, as well as the Minsk agreements. Therefore, we want legally binding security guarantees. This means that they need to be voted in the parliaments of the countries. As for the meeting, a meeting is needed. This is not about desire, but it is necessary. We supported both a trilateral meeting and a bilateral one in any format. I believe that Russia is doing everything to delay. American partners told us that Putin invited me to Moscow. I believe that, if you want there to be no meeting, you should invite me to Moscow. So I think Russia has started talking about a meeting. That's not bad. But so far, we do not see their desire to end the war. And meetings, I believe, adult leaders from a meeting of this level should come out with some results. Preferably the end of the war. Thanks.
Good afternoon. The first question is for Mr. President Zelensky. You have already partially answered it, but I would still like to clarify whether during this long, as we, journalists, understood conversations with Trump, did he announce any new deadlines for Putin? And was it only about a one-on-one meeting with him, which the American side conveyed this request? Were there other options for the meeting? You also said about the political format of security that will be provided. Is it about EU membership or something more?
Thank you for asking. First of all, among the security guarantees that we see, membership in the European Union. For us, these are mandatory economic security guarantees. Political, economic, and geopolitical. Therefore, in our approach to security guarantees, this is an important point which is placed in a separate paragraph. As for our long conversation, we had a lot of leaders during the conversation. And it is absolutely clear that there are ideas, there are developments. Everyone has questions, and everyone communicates with the United States, all leaders, of course, everyone has their own proposals, of course, tariffs, of course, sanctions. And, of course, the format of the meeting with Putin. And what America will agree to, and most importantly, when it will agree, if Putin postpones the meeting. These topics, in fact, were discussed, and the Vice President on the other side, online, the Vice President of the United States and President Trump's representative Steve Witkoff was also in touch with us at the table.
My second question to the French President. Regarding the cessation of the war and the agreement, you said that the Europeans would provide guarantees as soon as there is a ceasefire. But you said yesterday that guarantees will begin when there is peace. Can you clarify if the ceasefire is included in these guarantees?
We have always said that in order for there to be a sustainable peace, we do not need security guarantees. In recent months, you have seen that everything has changed. Initially, the proposal to which the Ukrainian president agreed was an American proposal. This is definitely a ceasefire. Then there was the rejection of this truce. Whatever the form, whether it is a ceasefire or a complete peace, security guarantees will immediately apply. And this is how they are considered conceptually.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, BFM Television. President Zelensky, clarifications on the 26 countries you talked about. Does this include Germany, Italy, Poland, which were very cautious about the idea of sending troops? And next question is for both of you. You are talking about coordinated sanctions with the Americans if there are no changes in the coming weeks. What are we talking about? Did the White House ask, did Trump ask you and all European leaders to stop buying Russian oil? And did he stress that European leaders should pressure China to stop funding Russia's war effort?